my favorite. That's going to be cool.
Good.
Good bike trails.
Good.
That's the park down to 148 through there.
This is the Mtg County Board of Commissioners meeting. It's June 14, 2021. It's 10 a.m. Roll call, please.
Jim Marlowe.
Present.
Brent Gentry.
Present.
Tim Atkinson.
Present.
Under new business, well, first off, I should say, is there any old business? If not, we'll move on to new business. Okay, the new CMS rates. I've asked Julie to tell us what these represent.
So basically, I don't know if you guys have had a chance to review them, but I'm pretty pleased with the rates this year. They've only gone up $3 for the counties. And for the employees, it only went up like 58 cents for the single plan. I mean, that's really good. That's the best, we've seen in a long time. They're wanting us to sign a 2-year agreement this year instead of a 1, but we only have to give them 60 days notice to get out of it, so it's not like we're locked in.
How many? 60?
60. So I mean, it's not like we're locked in, but I mean, I emailed them and they said they've been doing 2-year contracts for a while. We have not. We've only been signing 1, so I don't know what they're talking about.
Okay.
But I mean, we can get out of it pretty easily, but I mean, I'm pretty pleased with the
So someone is still free to come in and give us a bid
Yeah.
on health insurance, and if it's better, then
and we can give them.
we can
60
make
days
plans.
notice. Yeah.
okay. And this takes effect July
First.
1st. Okay.
So those rates are locked in July 1st and July 1st next year.
Okay.
So
Well, then I just need a motion to accept the CMS rates unless somebody else has anything you want to discuss.
No, I'm really impressed with these folks. I'll make a motion to accept.
I'll second that.
Jim Marlowe.
Yes.
Brent Gentry.
Yeah.
Tim Atkinson.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Julie.
Thank you, Julie.
Okay. I've asked Celeste to be here and Carrie Menace with Greater Egypt. We discussed that Celeste's departure on June 30th. And I asked Carrie to discuss it with him about maybe taking over the duties of of the grant writing and reporting and everything. So, Carrie, I don't know, do you have questions on you can tell us what Greater Egypt could offer us as far as what Celeste does and how that goes? Kind of like our conversation that we had on the phone.
Sure, yeah, and without knowing the full scope of what all Celeste does, but I can tell you what we offer though. I mean, so any community in the county or business that's applying for, grants, we can provide assistance with those grants, write them. We do that all the time. We don't charge a fee for writing the grants. It's just a service that we provide. Certain grants like the CDBG have a lot more administrative burden on it, so we do charge an administrative fee. Most of the time, the administrative fees are covered by the grant, or majority of it's covered by the grant. CDBG went for a little while where they didn't let you charge it to the grant, so you had to negotiate it with whomever you're writing the grant on behalf of. But I think they're back allowing it into future grants, so that's something that if we did grants in the future, at least right now, it's something that the grant could cover. But so we write grants for IDOT, the Economic Development Administration, the Delta Regional Authority. We do CDBG grants. That's just, and then we do random grants. We don't do the housing grants that's offered through CDBG. I think there's somebody else that's in the county that does those. So that's the only one that we're not really doing.
Is there any question that maybe you have for Celeste?
My question would be is if we were to assist with the duties that she's had now, is what she currently has on her plate.
Well, the only thing that I have open, and we just got the grant agreement for, is the revolving loan closeout project.
Okay.
And it's for Johnson City's water tower. So I just got the grant agreement, but they're working with Rural Development and Clarity Engineering. They're applying for additional money because they're going to change. This is only for $539,000, and they're requesting another $1.5 million from Rural Development. So they're close. Last time I talked to Brian Ziegler, he said they're close to having it all finished. But it'll be all done after I'm done. So we need someone to take over for the CDB part.
Have you done the environmental part for the
All
city?
done, yeah.
Okay.
The
So,
only thing that's left is the reporting and the monitoring.
okay.
And Greater Egypt would be able to.
We would be able to do that. Yes.
Reporting and the monitoring.
Yes.
Okay. Now, I know we talked about the grant people over there at the state's attorney's office. That maybe that we could get them to do their own reporting. I don't know, is that part of what you would do, or will we still go down that path?
Well, it's for employees. We have one through the Attorney General's office, and one through Illinois Criminal Justice, and they supply funds for our employees.
Okay, so that's a different grant.
Two different grants.
Our thought was is that, employees or the attorneys should be over their own. If they want jobs, I mean, I don't know if that, they'd be thrown on somebody who'd be or not. I mean, can you do it?
I think they can do it.
There's one guy that's really sharp, you can handle it.
Oh, over there, you mean? Yeah, and I talked with Brandon this morning about it, and he's in agreement. He said that they should be able to handle it, but I just didn't know if you want to do everything or just let them take care of that their employees.
Well, I don't think that's in the scope of what Greater Egypt does.
That's fine,
And then Joy would do.
that's fine.
The sheriff's department.
For your Johnson City RLF, did you include the admin fees to it?
There was none.
There was none.
Is there anything else that maybe you might have for them? Because I'm just organize this as just a little
Yeah, get together.
info, get together info.
Yeah, so my thoughts, and normally we would include admin fees in the grant, so it'd be known up front. Since this one's already, the bulk of it's already done, I mean, we still have expenses that we could do it on a cost reimbursement basis, so whatever it costs us is what it would cost the county to administer that one that's already ongoing. So, we do cost reimbursement contracts, but, in the future, if there's any grant agreement that goes out there, that's something that typically the grant would cover.
All right. So then it sounds like we pretty well have our bases covered.
That we have, 4 Rebuild Illinois facilities pending. Who knows when. But one of them we're gonna cover under the American Rescue Grant Line Action.
That's the idea.
I have another one that can go under there, Burgess Water District.
I think we.
They're unincorporated, and they have a real problem with getting water off of Red Lake's pressure to fill their tank. They can only do it at a certain time on a certain day, and even at that point, they can only get like 30%. Ryan Farley is the engineer, and he said he'd be happy to come and talk to you guys, tell you about it.
Okay.
It's a $600,000 project, because they have to build a ground storage tank like the one that's in Energy. So Red Lake can fill the ground storage tank, and then they can pump their own water from the ground to the tower.
Good.
When Ashley was up here, he was concerned about keep record or something. I don't know but have you talked to him about?
Yeah, he wants me to sit down with him and Rachel so they can determine what kind of stipend they need to pay their employee to do the reporting. So we're gonna go over it.
Well, that's basically all I've got. I just wanted to make sure that the full board understood that what Greater Egypt can offer, and if anybody, these guys have any questions for you.
On your administrative fee for that one grant, do you have any idea how much that would be? Nothing to hold your feet to the fire. We're talking thousands or?
It would probably be a few thousand. It's a water tank. So what we have to do besides just quarterly reporting is we have to go out and monitor the wage rate. So we send people out and they interview the people that are working to make sure that they're getting paid the correct wages. That's the most time consuming part of it.
Payroll certification.
Yes, the payroll certification. So the longer a project drags on, the more the costs are. If it's a short one, the costs aren't nearly as high, which is, usually we take care of this up front. And, the fee that we've been using, because the state got rid of their standard thing, is we charged a flat $10,000 plus 4% for every dollar over the 10,000 or over 100,000, I'm sorry, with a cap at 30,000. So if you had a very large project, 500,000, it might have, a 1 or 2 construction season, you might have a $30,000 administrative charge, and that includes the environmental, which he's already done. So, that's pretty much in line with what most everybody charges for these things. They just got rid of their standard formula. It used to be something like 7% is what they allowed you to charge up to a cap. So they quit doing the standard fee when they quit having you charge it to the grant, but now they're back to letting you charge it to the grant, but they got rid of that percentage. So at this point in the game, we're coming in midstream, so, you know, just, it's kind of hard to put a number to it. It just depends on what the grant takes. But we would just charge you whatever our costs are.
Yeah.
You know, Margie is our CDBG guru. So the way that we typically do this is Margie does most of the reporting, and I have another planner that we send out that does the payroll certification. We have a bookkeeper that will review everything. So it is a team approach. We try to make sure that, you know, we don't use the most expensive person on staff to do this, which would be me, to monitor these things. So, you know, it's been a thing that works for us, and we try to keep the costs down as much as we can.
Good.
So all the town staff are on the board at Great Region, you know, we get all different people. There's also a financial agreement that we give money for Great Region. Is that, what are we paying for with that?
So what we do with the local share that we get is primarily that goes towards matching our Economic Development Administration grant. So all told, we get about $90,000 a year from all of our local governments.
To month.
No, every year. That's an annual amount.
Combined them all.
Combined, yeah. When you combine everything that we get from all the local communities, it's $90,000. We take $70,000 of that annually, and that's what covers our Economic Development Administration grant. So that's the bulk of the work that we do at Economic Development, our planning, working on developing those large Economic Development Administration grants. Then we have the $20,000 that we have available that doesn't go to that, and that's basically the only money that we have that we can spend on more or less anything, right? Everything else we have is restricted for grant purpose or unrelated grant purpose, so we can use that to write grants like the CDBG grant, or we can work on IDOT grants. So that's the money that's not the catch-all. And we don't charge fees for writing grants. We don't charge for most of the technical systems. We try to get away from charging fees for just about everything that we can, but there's some things like Celeste can tell you, a CDBG grant is a very onerous project for administrating. It could easily be, you know, the $30,000, you could go through that, you know, in a long project that has issues. You know, we're not talking about one of those types of grants today, but that's what happens. So, and so, I guess just in short, that's where that money goes.
Just to clarify, it takes a lot of time to write an application. I think that's a really burdensome cost. And so when you're not charging for that, and it could take months, you have to hold a public hearing and do all the steps that are involved, that's probably where most of that money just disappears.
It goes fast. Just as a side note, we were just fortunate to have an EDA award for the city of DuQuoin that was just announced, $4 million. We submitted that application, submitted it in December of 2019. So we had probably about 3-4 months prior to that we were developing that project. And since then, we've been following up and sending additional information. So, you know, a lot of these applications are very time consuming. A typical application for EDA is usually 130 pages. So, you know, they vary in complexity. We do have some applications, like for the Delta Regional Authority, you submit them, you know, they may be 5 pages, you know, of information. It takes longer to get together what you want to do, get budget estimates and all that kind of thing. But CDBG, EDA grants, they're not the simplest of grants, and that's why DCEO requires that you go to their annual training to be an administrator or to write their grants. They don't just allow anybody to do them because they are complicated, and they do monitor them, and they monitor most of them, and they make sure that you're complying with all of the rules and regulations. So it's not the type of thing you want just anybody doing.
Anything else? Kerry, I appreciate you coming in, taking time to come in.
Okay, no problem, anytime.
We'll be in contact with you. We'll get things going. I would imagine that's kind of what the direction that sport is kind of leaning toward. So, but, you know, we'll talk about it a little bit more. But I appreciate you coming in and letting us know. Celeste, did you have anything you want to say about this, or?
No, I think so. I know they'll do a terrific job.
I know Carrie always does a great job. Margie said.
With the beard or without the beard?
With the beard, without the beard, COVID just got me to stop shaving. One of the side effects of COVID, you know, it's like stay home for so long and quit shaving. And it's like, hey, I like it, I'm not shaving.
All right. Well,
Anybody else?
that's all we.
Something you want to add? Good.
No, we just talked about monitoring. We just had a monitoring visit last Thursday, and she was there 3 hours. And I have a list of things that she says we still need to do on the project.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not,
No, definitely not.
Nothing's ever easy.
and I had a box of files, paper box of files.
No, and I can tell you, since I've been at Greater Egypt, but it's going on 11 years now, and in that time, I mean, you can just see every about 2 years, they ratchet up, you know, the accountability and, you know, requirements that they have for grants. You know, if they keep this pace up, I mean, it's hard to imagine how complicated it's gonna be to manage a grant. They just keep making it more and more stringent, to do, which, you know, is good to a degree. Sometimes it's overburdensome, but, you know, that's part of what comes along with it. Even if the gold makes the rules, I think that's what they say, so.
Well, I know one thing, when money gets tight, rules get tighter.
Yeah,
So, and that's, I think, what we're seeing, you know, everybody wants to be held accountable for the grant money.
and you should be if you're doing things that are wrong. Because sometimes when you're doing things right, it becomes difficult to do the things that you're trying to do because of the rules that you have.
For sure.
You know, that's the balance.
And CDBG grants are 2 years. So that 30,000 sounds like a lot of money to go out there and do some reporting, but it's a 2-year project. So you have to be available for all of that 2-year period, and then you have to close it out.
And if you've not seen one of the environmental reports that she's done, they're not easy to do. It takes a long time to learn how to do those and to do them properly. And, you know, they're a very important part of that process. And not everybody can do one. So that's another thing. So it's not like, you know, just filling out simple reports. I mean, they're pretty complicated things to get done.
Well, thanks for coming in.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. That's all we need. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks,
Much
Celeste.
Margie, don't forget
Margie.
Margie. I'm so reading my money.
You got money in there, leave it.
If you leave it, there might be any left.
I got a couple of invoices here from Ashley. I didn't know if we were going to bring Ashley up here to talk about them. I know he had a note on here for the commissioners to pay. Does anybody know what these are?
I don't
Or
know.
anything, anybody talk with that?
No, I haven't talked to
One
that.
bill is for $85, and it says it's for computer setup and programming. Assisting Jerry with incorrect deposit in probation account and correct the issue and rebalance. And to assist Rachel with correcting input that produced an imbalance for the funds account. Entry found and corrected.
So why exactly are we back?
Well, that's my question. And then the other one, you look at that one, HRS license. The attached invoices are accounting related to be paid from the commissioner's line item. This is a memo from Ashley. DBAM invoice pertaining to balance of the probation and general funds account. The HRS Pro Web software will be used by the treasurer's office and the sheriff's office to the unclaimed properties report and send out notification letters. This will be an annual subscription service. There are 3 licenses total, so another office will use it if necessary. The DBAM invoices still to be paid. The HRS license was paid by me, so that will need to be reimbursed. So basically,
What's that for?
that's what I'm wondering. Do we want to go ahead and call Ashley up here?
Is that an invoicing service? Is that what that was?
It's for a license for them. Did he explain that to you, Stephanie?
He sent that memo up and
It's-
said that he
yeah,
paid
it's-
for it on his own card.
It's for unclaimed properties report and send out notification letters. It's to be used by the treasurer's office and the sheriff's office.
Remember,
So-
we spent like $500 on checks earlier this year, remember that? That they determined was ours.
Well, here's one thing, we talk about the claims review group, for all these invoices to come in, be looked at, double looked at, triple looked at, that needs to, if we're gonna do that, we need to get it in place, like immediately, or we're gonna keep having all these questions and correct invoices and.
But then, right, exactly, and that's what this would fall under, because this is for unclaimed
would
license for unclaimed
It would still
property.
come back to you guys to decide who's gonna pay for that though.
Right.
I mean, 'cause
Right. On the ones that come before us. And, so I say, let's get Ashley up here.
You want me to call him?
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and call him?
and then you wanna talk about the mask thing, 'cause of the.
Yeah, the mask thing, personally, I just think we should put a sign on there that says masks are optional. If you feel you need to wear one, well, you know, that way we let everybody coming in decide.
So you're saying when they walk in over there, they have an option, of if they ask them if they've been,
So I moved offices, and I'm where Charlie used to be, second floor corner, right next to the second floor entrance to the courthouse, other side of the building from where we're at. So I hear them all the time. When people come in for court, typically the guard will ask, have you been vaccinated? And if the person responds in the negative, they'll tell them they need to get a mask. If the person responds in the affirmative, typically they just let them come on through. I've heard one time, and I don't know which guard it was, when the person said, yeah, they've been vaccinated, asking to see the card. But I've only heard that one time. I haven't heard that again. So I don't know if they've been given direction not to. But that's what they're doing over there. We're allowed to ask to see the vaccination card. I don't know if it's best practice, but legally we're allowed to do so.
so they can say anything, yes or no, whether they are or not, they can walk around in. Then you
Yeah.
say they get in the courtroom and
Then-
take them off, that's where I want them off.
Typically, once you get past security, yeah, a lot of people you'll see that'll just take them off. And a lot of the judges, I can't speak for all of them because I've only appeared in front of a few, are very lenient. They don't care. Judge Schaefer and Judge Green specifically, they don't require the masks.
Well,
He said give him a couple minutes of you.
okay,
As far as I'm concerned, I don't care if they wear a mask or not. And that's why I fall. Doesn't matter to me.
I'm just bringing it up because we didn't get mail delivered Friday because the mailman did not have a mask on and they wouldn't let him in. So I think it was a different mailman than we normally have, but I know you guys were waiting for some more direction from the governor before you decided what you were going to do in this building.
Well, we went to phase 5, didn't we?
Yes, Friday.
Well, those guys out there work for the sheriff, where we decide, send the sheriff a note, and tell them what to do. That,
Right.
So Drew, legally, we're okay, whatever we do.
Yeah, you're okay. Yeah, you can ask them.
Just gotta run through
You don't
the
have
sheriff.
you don't have a HIPAA violation. Yeah, you need to go through the sheriff. Yeah, you're fine. I have my, at first, when we first did it, when CDC made the recommendation, Judge Green had said, all right, that's it, no more masks. Then he reversed it a few minutes later and
Right.
said, well, you can vaccinate. I've been vaccinated. I took a copy of my card, whited out my date of birth, and stuck it to my office door. That way, if anybody wonders why I'm not wearing a mask, I'd say 90% of the people over there aren't wearing them. And that would include the public that comes in.
how many do you think of the employees that have been vaccinated? 50%, 60%?
Yeah, I guess. I know everybody in the state's attorney's office, both attorneys and, the secretaries. I think there's 2 people, maybe in our entire office that have them.
That's good. Only 2, but quite a few people.
They brought you up here to ask you about your opinion on the mask mandate.
seriously?
Well, while you're here,
While you're here, might as well give an opinion.
Nothing else to do, right?
No, I didn't know, we're looking at these 2 claims and I'm I've read your memo to the board, the one that you sent, and just trying to find out why you feel that the board should be paying for these things. Just
They're
maybe,
accounting related.
yeah.
And again, it's the county commissioners that are supposed to handle the accounting portion of the operation. Not my office is tax related. We do obviously do the accounting, but those particular ones, which I mean, one was a VBAM, and I can't remember what the other one was.
One was for helping Jerry and Rachel.
Yeah, for reconciliation of accounts, okay. Which is again is accounting.
Okay. But I guess, was this brought to our attention before though? Before the software was purchased?
I mean, you've had that software for years.
Yeah.
Well, here's what's been done in the past. You guys would refuse to pay it, or whomever was in this position, and Brinson wouldn't call you on it. So I asked him to get clarification of what our office was responsible for and what technically the county is responsible for. The county is responsible for all accounting functions of the county. So that becomes a commissioner's line item and not a treasurer's line item. Now, there is no line item per se in this budget. There will be one brought before you with the next budget that will be like centralized administration, I think is what we had discussed, or what I discussed with Kim about calling it, putting in like $5,000 to pay for check stock and everything else that is truly accounting related and not tax related. And actually, honestly, the checks that Amanda uses for all the gen fund stuff should be paid out of that centralized administration line rather than out of her office, if that's what you.
I asked for it in the gen fund, so, I mean, in my office expense.
Yeah.
So I'm getting it from them through the gen fund. I
Yeah,
don't think
there
we're out of
should-
my accounts.
It should be separated, because technically that's accounting related.
Mhm.
I mean, that's part of what a lot of the problems are with the way the budget is written, is that there's a lot of overlapping things, or things aren't identified as what they truly need to be. So you can't track them in the way that they should be. So, because even like, you know, I even asked Mark if there was a cost for any kind of updates or any kind of modifications or anything that's done, and he just charges us by the hour. You know, like that tax, the $19,000 that we pay for the tax system is tax only. The other stuff is you could pay $5,000 for an annual maintenance contract with them, in which he would, you know, do everything as you asked him to, and it would all be covered under that. Now, when I've been tracking it so far for the last 2 years, I don't think it gets to that point. So I'm not sure that would be, you know, cost effective to do something like that. But I mean, yeah, I mean, things that are, I mean, truly, you know, accounting related, printers, copiers, you know, check stock, all that stuff, I mean, should actually be paid out of the commissioner's.
Okay, I see what you're saying, but where does that cross line as far as like supplies or like office supplies and stuff like that?
Well, I mean, you have to identify them, but I can tell you, like, I mean, if you ask us how many checks our tax people write, it's probably less than 50 a year. We ACH everything to everybody, so all we're doing is cutting, I think, 2 checks per disbursement. So you're talking 4, that's 8, and then whatever refunds we give people, or whatever ones we do internally for levied trust that we, you know, that the county levies. But I mean, it's under 50. We're running checks, but we're writing an obscene amount of checks for all the trust accounts and payroll and everything else that my office has paid for years that really are accounting related. They're not tax related. So, I mean, I'm just
trying to get clarification.
No, I understand, but I mean, it's because it never, nobody ever.
Never clarified.
Never, and then it goes back to, again, I've looked at my automation accounts, and like when I gave you, we were talking about, I mean, there's been tens of thousands of dollars that have been paid for, you know, computers and servers and everything else out of that automation account. It really should have been paid for by the county. because they were for accounting servers, they were for payroll computers, they were, I mean, that's the primary function. I mean, if we're doing payroll, that should actually be paid out, by the county, not by, my office, whenever my payroll person uses her computer to look at, taxes 10% of the time over an entire, work year.
If you want to clarify all this, it's kind of like us going to the jail. PDC, Cam, or whoever, just
Yeah.
break it out. This is the counties, this is
Right.
office order, this, and then there's no question asked.
Let me just make
No, I
sure-
understand.
Everything's in writing, everybody got a spreadsheet, it's
Yeah,
in writing.
yeah. I mean, right now it's not, but I mean, no offense. You guys have money and you have contingency and everything else. You cut everybody else's budget, so I'm not gonna pay for something I don't have to. That's, I mean, pretty much how.
That's a good office,
Let's cut it
that's a
right.
good office, so, not pay for it.
All right. Do us a favor, if there are other items that need more clarification
Mhm.
like this, make a list of them, maybe at a board meeting or something, next board meeting.
Oh, I mean, I've
Or we
got,
can set one up to discuss all this.
yeah,
Just
well,
like what he said.
I was waiting until till the budget time. because-
Yeah.
Well,
that
but-
was what I was gonna show you. Oh, I mean, I've already got that on my list.
Well, but other
Tell
things,
us in July, we'll
Yeah.
forget what's it.
other things may come up now and then, so let's just clarify, us,
Yeah,
office holder,
Yeah.
and then it's plain as day, so there's no questions asked.
I don't think any of us, what you pay for other stuff you shouldn't have to pay for.
Well, I mean, like I said, I think a lot of times it's just, again, that's what it's always been done, normal course of business, or maybe you just didn't want to ask or get clarification on it, but I mean, I'm asking the questions, and, those are not, expenses that should be related to.
This will make us more accurate.
Same way with, like I said, same way with Amanda. I mean, Amanda can continue to pay if she wants, but really, I mean, we should be identifying what are true, like, centralized accounting costs for the county as a whole, and then what are true,
But more
supply
line
costs.
items.
No, you're-
We gotta make
you're-
sure that these line items don't balloon
Right,
out
Right.
of cost also.
right.
So,
Yeah, because I'm thinking, I mean, ballpark figure, I was thinking $2,000 to $3,000 probably would cover it, but I had more.
but if you put 5,000 in, the actual cost is only 2,000.
Well, I mean, but that's you guys, I mean, but I mean, again, like I
We
said,
won't know what
if
that
the
is.
3,000 takes away from somebody.
But if you tell us
When
5,000,
you figured out in my budget what they should cut me by, did you include elections in mine? Because that's under them. But I'm pretty sure that was all included under mine whenever it was decided how much to cut my office by. The employees.
No, I don't think I did, because it was a offsetting, because I think whenever I looked at was 2017 wasn't really an election year. So that was
I have
gonna
an election every year, but
whack you. Well, I'm
it's
saying.
still, yeah, you're still looking at a big amount. That's, a big portion of that is elections, which
Right.
is not under me.
So elections would be under the county.
Elections are under the county. I'm directed to administer it, but you guys are responsible. If that goes over, you have to pay for it.
then we need the same thing to do with the department.
Well, elections, that's its own section by itself.
That's a big-
Elections is sectioned out by itself in my budget, yeah. It's all elections.
Right.
Big
Well,
part.
that's not a problem.
You pay for what you're supposed to pay for, like if you want to go to Sonic and get me have an FC, that would be absolutely perfect.
5,000 here, 2,000 there.
And then we'll, at budget time, we'll just adjust everything accordingly.
Yeah,
If we need to adjust more for this fund for the accounting purposes. we'll-
that's right.
The key is putting it in writing.
Yeah.
From somebody that knows, that's.
No, I know, I mean, I'm keeping track of.
You're probably right, Brenton probably did push it.
And that's the problem whenever we go from one elected official to another,
Right, right.
different lines of thinking,
Right.
so.
Because I mean, like, I can, my intent, honestly, for like my assistant treasurer position with Rachel is that, I mean, she's not really gonna be doing much, if any, in taxes. She's like the last resort to help out in taxes. She's focusing on accounting side. So, I mean, truly, like, everything that she does in her little operation is 90%, 95% accounting based, which would be under the county. Same way with with Marlo, when 85% of her job is payroll related, and claims reimbursement and everything else for the county. That's that's part of the county.
So tell me about this software that can be used by the treasurer's office, sheriff's office.
Oh, that one. Okay. So that's the unclaimed property.
Yeah.
So we're required every year to send an unclaimed property report to the state. So those are any checks that are outstanding for 3 years to the day of November is what that date is. So we're required, like for our office, that means we would be going through every account that we oversee, which would be gen fund, all the standalones, everything else. The sheriff's office has 2 accounts that are standalone accounts that fall under, we believe, fall under the same guidelines. So there's an inmate trust account in which when someone, gets arrested, and we may need somebody from the sheriff's office to exact this, but they pay money out, or they receive money and put it in an account, for those individuals for the time that they're incarcerated.
Is that bond money you talked about?
No, it's not bond. It's separate. It's like, this would be like commissary type money.
Like maybe money they had.
Money they had on their person whenever they were arrested.
And what they had.
So then that money gets put in there. Well, when they get released, well, they turn around and cut a check and give it back to them. Well, sometimes people have, $1.25 on them, so they still write a check for $1.25 and give it to them, but they don't cash it. So all that's got to be turned over. And there's thousands of checks that need to be, brought up and put on this report for that haven't been done for years. So this system that I'm buying will allow our office, it's a web-based system. You can have 3 different user licenses, but my office will use it for all of our general fund stuff. The sheriff's office is going to be able to use it for their inmate trust. The circuit clerk's office has their own company that they deal with and send everything to them, and they do all the letters and stuff. This will let you do all the reports, all the letters and everything, and it's all, web-based, it's all centralized. So that way you can pull out the prior year report. You have a database with individuals' names and everything, and then you'll be able to put all that together. And it's in the proper format that the state needs to be able to export it and upload it into the state treasurer site on an annual basis. So that's what it is. But again, that's the county related.
Yeah.
So those are the type of things,
Right.
like I would be, listing, yes, that's, something that would be, and that's an annual fee. You could have put it on your computer system, but I called CDS, I sent them all the specs for the web-based program and the CPU-based program. They were basically the same, and the web-based they felt was secure enough that we just went ahead and used that one. But either way, you'd have to buy the licenses on an annual basis.
And I don't mean anything by this, but okay, so if this is an accounting related, so that would be on for the commissioners, okay? But
Probably should have came to you and asked you.
I was going to say, were there other options available at the time? Or?
There were more expensive ones.
Oh, well, that's.
Yeah. And then like the one, I tried to call the one out east that the circuit clerk uses. I never got a phone call back from them. And I was trying to get all this done in our slower time, because my hope is that we can at least get the first report, or at least get a draft done before we start to send out our tax bills in July. So,
Okay.
So.
Okay. All right.
When are the tax bills coming out?
Probably the middle or latter half of July. The final abstract was sent off.
Last week,
Yeah.
last Thursday,
They received
and
them.
last time it took about 5 weeks before we got the final. We can't do anything. We can do paperwork right now, but we can't actually hand it over to him
Yeah.
until after
So
we
it
get
could
the
be
final.
definitely after the 15th of July.
Possibly.
I think by the end of July, though, it should.
They should be. If you go by the timeline that, like Amanda just said, from last year, that would put us like right at the middle of July to receive the final.
Yeah.
And then so, are you planning on sending out a tentative
Yes, we'll
extension?
send out a tentative extension, letting them know
Okay.
this is what we think it's gonna be. It usually doesn't change, and then if they sign off on that and nothing changes, then we'll be ready to hand it off. to
When do
them.
they usually go out? I can't remember.
Well, in the normal world, they were out the last week of May or the first week
Yeah.
of June.
We'll just say,
With due dates in July and September, now we're gonna have due dates in August and October. But Jeff said that there's a possibility that they might be done in a few weeks, because they're actually going back to work, or they're gonna be in the office 3 days a week. And they, last time this all happened, they ran only on Tuesdays,
Who do you send it to?
the stays.
Department of Revenue.
The department or someone, one part of it.
So,
And when do they come out with the multiplier?
well, I mean, we have the tentative multiplier.
Yeah, we already have a
That's the
tentative
final.
multiplier, but we have to get a final.
And
Yeah.
what's?
1.03,
1.03.
1.03.
so, yeah, everybody's, that's gonna go up.
So once you guys get done with board review, that's when we can sign that,
Right.
send it off, and then,
Right, we're
yeah,
done.
so we're just
I think it's
waiting.
done.
It's done.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've had several people ask about the taxes.
Well, tell them to like our web page. We just put up a Facebook page for the church's office. I actually just posted the information to have.
Next year, I think we'll probably, hopefully get back more on track.
Yeah.
Everything going back to normal.
Yeah.
It should be, hopefully.
Yeah, as long
May
as-
not be the end of May again, but it
Right.
will.
Well, if we, you know, I think, when I talked to Jeff and Alex, they were saying it would be nice if we could get, you know, 2 or 3 weeks earlier next year, and then maybe the other 2 or 3 weeks, you know, so within 2 years, we'll be back to the old,
Change
you know,
something.
send them out first part of June, middle of July, middle of September, you know, and everything else.
Just means that
and get back to that, so.
Well, I think people want to understand what the holdup is up there.
Hopefully not.
Oh, but they want to pay,
Yeah.
they want to pay. Just tell everybody, if they want to prepay, I'm taking prepayments until.
I don't want
July
to-
That'll be the
2nd, so
I see that.
we'll be happy to take their money. Go ahead.
Usually goes right down.
Look up the street.
Yeah, as long as they
Drawing,
don't.
drawing.
That's all I got for you.
Okay.
Then we'll be talking.
Mom and daughter.
Hey, by the way, if you're gonna get Brent one and a half from Sonic, I'll take one too.
The only thing I wanted to share was that, you know, we were talking about the animal control meeting. We got that set up for June 23rd at 1 o'clock. If you guys can make it,
When was that
invited June 23rd at 1 o'clock. I've invited Dave Severn and Dale Fowler. They both committed to being here. So if you want to call in, I know you said you may be gone. If you want to call in. we can set that up. So that was pretty much the only time.
And I can assure you,
Dale.
I won't be calling. I'm not gonna be calling about.
But anyway, other
So
than
is
that,
this a board meeting then, or?
It'll
is
be
it
a
just-
board meeting.
Okay.
I think it's on the board, yeah.
Okay.
And the idea is to see how we can either modify the Animal Control Act. The whole issue is the number of times that an attack has to take place before the dog is vicious. So, and maybe somehow to give our local animal control supervisors authority so that we can somehow reach a happy medium here. And it's not just for this one guy, this is countywide. This issue.
Do we come to some kind of agreement on asks?
Oh, I would say just put a sign out there saying, masks are optional. That's all. Short, sweet, a mask is optional. I just have
Let me think, when you walk up and say a mask is optional. I'm trying to think how a person would read that, so they're.
Some people like.
Some might, I mean,
Some
some
will.
might, older people might, you know, they might.
And that way they know coming in that it's optional. If they want to continue to have a mask on, that's.
Now, there's restaurants that say, you know, you must have a mask to enter, and they don't. And so
I know some
They need to take it
Is
down.
there anything legally wrong with having masks as optional?
Nothing wrong with having masks as optional. The thing I would ask though is, could you type something up, just put something in writing, that bears either the entire board signature, or at least the chairman's signature, and send a copy to the sheriff. And if you would, send a copy to either Brandon or myself at the state's attorney's office. Just that way we have it in writing, and then we can, you know, once the sheriff has it, we can post the signs on the door.
But on that, being that really this is the only building that we have somewhat control over, can we just say in the administration building?
You have to say that.
You can do that if you
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Yeah, because the judge is over that one, so.
And
Sure.
Benny's over the jail.
We don't really want to tell students to do over there.
Steve's not here today, so.
We can talk about him.
I'm sure he'll find out about it.
There is one other issue, if we're good on that one. Are we good on that? And Stephanie, we can.
Yeah, it just, as long as the sheriff
Something simple.
makes the call and tell him the recommendation, he can do what he wants.
And then we can send that to the sheriff's office in the courthouse, so. Is the liquor license, the distributor license. All right, the gentleman that was wanting to distribute or distill bourbon and distribute bourbon, not have a on-site consumption, he just wants to distribute it. We don't really have a license for that. Now, I know you were to look into that, and I know we got an email about that, but I think we need to go ahead and, I don't know, in your opinion, I don't think we have a license that really covers that, just distributing. I think we need to get the wording down and establish a fee.
Yeah, I think it'd be a new license if he's distilling and then distributing, no consumption on the premises. Because our A, currently our class A,
Is for on-site.
is for on-site consumption. So it would be a new category, yeah.
As a distiller, he doesn't have to have a license with the state.
Yes, he
Yeah,
has
he
to have a
does,
license.
You have to
That's
have
first,
this one
that's first and
first.
foremost.
And federal.
So is a license for him actually needed by the county?
You have to have a county license for your
Both.
state.
And he's aware of that, he's fine with it.
Yeah, and he understands it. Now, the guy down at Katie Lynn, who is distilling brandy, only sells it at his place. He's got a class A. He can, at the winery there. He doesn't distribute it. We talked about that at one of our board meetings. We weren't interested in a license for that. But I would say this, if he decides, now I want to distribute, then I think he needs to come back and get a distributor's license. Just like this guy we're talking about here, who then later on may want to sell it at his place, then he needs a class A.
Well, he will probably do that eventually. He has to pick up at then a class A. So you have distillery, and then if he sells, it's a separate issue. You have to pick up a class A, so he'd be getting two licenses.
All of these, I'll tell you, you know, and you've
Two
all
separate deals.
been in business before, this is just the cost of business doing business,
I don't think it's, I don't think it's close to it.
you know,
It is, what kind of requirements we're gonna place on
that's,
us for having to, we're gonna have to monitor his license, we have to do inspections.
I think the state does that.
I think the state does
See, so
that,
that's why I'm wondering,
yeah.
why
So,
were we even getting in the middle of this?
because he'll have to have
Well, have a county license.
license. So-
That's no reason why everybody mess with it.
Right.
And so if he has a distillery license, let's say, we call that Q, and then we put it under Q, then,
Because we already got a D.
yeah, you have a distillery license, and then he says, well, I might open up some of these regulators. He has to come back and pick up an A.
and
Or
Right.
if you amend the A and put that in there, they would only have to still have that one license.
I don't like to intermingle them together. They're totally separate issues.
I think
I
so
agree,
too.
I agree.
I
We
think
should be-
it's totally
If you're gonna be
separate,
distillery, that's distillery. If you're gonna sell that, you're gonna sell it.
because.
It's not
again,
being greedy for money, it's just, I think it's cleaner if you just.
It's so that we know, if you got a distillery that sells distributes, and we had a class A and it was modified, then what if all of a sudden he opens up a bar because it's got the class A and we don't know about it? And we don't know he's got a manager there. We don't know if they're supposed to live in Williamson County, either the owner or the manager.
Well, that's something that I ask whenever they come and do
Right.
their application and get their license. I mean,
There's been.
I just think that it should be separate.
What you said?
Maybe what we could do is look at maybe some other counties for distributors license and kind of,
What's his time frame? When does he want to?
he's not in the hurry, right? He is, but he's not. He hasn't taken the first step, I don't think, other than just
He did his homework.
doing his homework.
So
So,
potentially we're discussing something that's never gonna happen.
well, I told him, no,
Purely
I
hypothetical.
told him, I said, I think we need to go ahead and get this set up, because I could see later on, this is starting to happen more and more. People are getting into this distilling stuff, you
Well,
know,
maybe, I mean,
and he's talking bourbon too. so.
what about brewery? What about
Same
brewing? What about distilling brewery? I mean, should we combine that into a single
We could,
license?
Well, what did we have Walker's Bluff under that's doing wine?
they're a name.
I think they consume on site, don't they?
Yeah.
But they would
and
have
they
to
can
have,
carry it on.
They might have, do they, no?
It's all covered under the A.
I thought the
Yeah.
A
You
said
can carry it off the premises.
And they would have to do two.
But he's talking about because
Like
they,
if you,
because they're doing
Manufacturing.
wine. Because they're growing and
Are they
manufacturing.
actually manufacturing wine
Oh, I
there?
watched them, yeah. Steve
Are they,
Martin.
is that the site in Williamson County though, or is that?
Is that in Jackson?
Right.
That's-
Over the building at Jackson.
Yeah, I thought they were just
It's
actually, I
a-
think
it's a-
all of that is.
Yeah, it's Jackson.
Oh, no, this is the general store.
yeah, we just have the
Yeah.
general
The
store.
general's in Wings.
That's A.
That's our.
Well, they're
that's the
gone. That's not a business.
Huh?
They're gone. It's offices now.
Well, they just came in and renewed their license.
And they're getting real thing. Yeah, they was gone.
But I told the guy, I said, well,
It could be because of COVID, I don't know.
I would be about 99% correct that the board would probably at least look into getting this type of stuff organized. And because I could see there's gonna be more people as time goes on get into this.
Well, right, we might as well, if we can do something today that will cover something in the future, we should.
That sounds like Wimpy.
Yeah,
Glad to pay you a day for.
yeah, buy me a cheeseburger
Whatever it
today
is.
and I'll pay you on
So-
Tuesday. Oh, hold on, Tuesday's tomorrow, next Tuesday.
So Andrew, to add to your workload, you might want to write this down.
What would you like an email, sir?
Writing is so.
And I
A
will
lot of
get
effort,
you,
a lot of effort.
and I might be able to help you out because I could ask UCCEI for any county's language on a license for distilling or distributing and see what they have, whatever other county within
See what
UCCEI.
Jackson's got on these wineries.
Yeah, see, and take a look, and that's what we need to do, to kind of look at their language and see how they got it written up. We'll go from there.
And we're not out to clobber them on the amount. We
No.
just want to make it
And that's,
clean.
25,000, that'd be fine.
now the guy told me the state, I think,
And a
charges,
half cut too.
the state charges 2,500 for their license.
I mean,
What's our highest one? The A is at 1,100?
No, it's
1350.
1350.
1350.
I personally, that's just my opinion, is that I think it needs to be higher than 1350 because this guy's distributing, which is different than at a facility here. I think you're talking quite a bit more money on that. And I don't mean to be, I'm not saying 2,500 like the state, but
We can check around to other
See what they-
counties,
see what they-
Jackson's
Yeah.
the one to be looking at.
and we'll try to get a number
Try
that's
to-
somewhere in there.
Jackson Union.
somewhere.
I imagine you probably, people that have one would probably be in between, probably
1250.
1,700 and 2,500 would be my guess, but we'll see.
See what they do and.
But I was gonna tell you, Sam, there's been times, many times, they come in and they come in and do the background check. And the person that owns it has a felony or something, they can't get it.
They can't get it.
So they have to use the manager. I can count 5 on the top of my head. And the manager has to live in the county.
So other than that, that's all.
I did receive the fingerprints back on the Elks.
So
I
we're
got it
good.
back this morning. And I sent it to Andrew, so.
Good deal. So are you gonna give them that one check back or for the
No,
special
that was
event?
this weekend. They
Okay.
did that this past weekend.
Okay, but from here moving on,
They won't need any more
They won't need
special
any more
events. They'll
special
have their
events.
license.
licenses,
Uh-huh.
other than for fireworks.
Yeah. But they don't get they won't have a fee for that. It'll just be the permit.
Right, okay, well, that's all I got. Anybody?
I'm done.
Brent, got anything? All right, just need a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Jim Marlowe?
Yeah.
Bridge entry? Matt?
You betcha.